Good morning, and welcome to What's New in CabWriter 6, Part 2. This Part 2 is going to focus entirely on a new set of functionalities that we've added to CabWriter. We call it ClosetWriter. ClosetWriter is wholly contained within CabWriter. It's just a set of functionalities. But what it does is allows us to draw closets or any storage. And typically when you design and construct closet storage, you do it in a small space. And you can't put all of the cabinets together as you do in kitchen cabinets beforehand and carry the large cabinets in. You tend to bring pieces to the job and carry pieces in and assemble them. So ClosetWriter is designed for people designing and drawing that kind of storage. And just like the cabinet maker brings the pieces to the job and assembles them on the job, ClosetWriter draws the pieces one at a time and assembles them into a closet. And we'll get at that a little later in the video. What you see before you is an example closet that I designed, and this isn't meant to be a good closet design. It's not meant to be a typical closet design or an efficient closet design or anything. All it's meant to do is to provide a vehicle for me to teach you how to use the tools of ClosetWriter to design and draw closets. You will come up with your own designs, hopefully some very efficient and very good looking designs. The other thing I did with this is I wanted to stress that ClosetWriter and CabWriter can be used to draw storage and kitchen cabinets and use them in the same design. And so this is a closet. This is a closet. This is a closet. This is a cabinet. And these are cabinets using CabWriter. These, of course, were drawn with ClosetWriter. And so I'm going to show you how we do that. I'm not going to show you how to draw the cabinets. You know how to do that. I'm going to show you how to draw the closets and connect them to the cabinets. In this design, if I take the doors off, you'll notice I've got an area here with a hanger rod for hanging clothes. And I'll take the drawer fronts off. Underneath that are 4 drawers for storage. Here we have a set of shelves, and here's a different kind of shelf. These, if we look at these are slanted shelves. That's for shoe storage. Here's a drawbank base, but it's not a cabinet, it's a closet. It's a drawbank base designed using the closet tools. That's the same here. And here we have the same unit that we had over here, which is a hanging rod, a clothes hanger rod for clothes to hang, and some drawers down below. So we're going to show you how to do all of this in this video. We hope to get it all done in 1 hour. If not, we'll run over into a third part. But we'll see how that goes, and I'll let you know at the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by drawing each part one at a time, and as I do that, I'll try to show you all the variations of a part. For instance, we'll start with sides, and I'll try to show you the tools and the variations of sides, but then draw the side that we're going to use for this design. I hope it doesn't get too confusing, but I want to be able to show you the variations of how you use the tools as well as show you how to put them together in a design. We'll try to make it understandable. All right, with that, let's get into drawing sides. This is where we're going to start with today's design. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to show you how to draw cabinets or toe kicks. You know how to do that. So I'm going to assume that's all done, and we'll just draw the closet parts. A couple of things I want to mention first. I drew a construction line 24 inches out from the wall here and here. I drew another one, you can see it here, 4 inches up along the blue axis from that construction line. That will place my closet parts right on this toe kick. Now the other thing I wanted to mention is I drew my construction line 24 inches from the wall. Now we do that a lot with cabinet designs because that's the front of the face frame for cabinet designs. However, for closet designs, it's the front edge of the partitions and sides and bottoms and tops. So we use the insert a door and insert a draw tool to place doors and drawers on top of that. So if I make this 24 inches from the wall and draw my closet and then add doors and drawers, the actual face of the doors and drawers will be something like 24 and 13/16 instead of 24 as they are in cabinets. You have to take that into account. I could have moved this line back about 13/16 to make it all line up with cabinets, but I needed the actual 24 inches in order to hang the clothes that were in the closet. I needed a width of 24 inches. So what I did to compensate was I made my cabinets, I think I made it 13/16 inches deeper than usual on the base. So that was our setup. Now the other thing is, I want to mention that before you start doing this, please read in the zip file that you download to install this. You'll find a document, a PDF document. And in that document, I think it's called What's New in CabWriter 6, there is a section called Guidelines for Closet Design. Please read that, because while I don't have time in this video to explain why I chose the particular parameter settings that I did, they are explained and detailed here. So please read that. Okay, so I'm going to get started now. The first thing I'm going to do is draw a side over here. And to do that, I'm going to use this tool right here. Now this tool I'm going to use a lot, Create Closet Component. All the closet components you're going to draw are going to be drawn with this tool. And the tool generally operates as follows. You select it, you click where you want to start, and for me that is right there at that intersection where that construction line enters the wall. And then I'll come out, doesn't matter how far, but on the line, and I'll click. And I get this dialog box. This is an important dialog box. It's got 3 fields. One called height. Let me explain height. Height is the elevation from the floor that you want a given part to terminate at. Now, height only applies to sides and partitions. It doesn't apply to any other part that you're going to draw, just sides and partitions. So I have set up my defaults for my closet height to be 66 inches. You can make yours what you want. This is just my design. The next field is a drop down, and there's a list of parts. Left side, right side, partition, top, bottom, fixed shelf, adjustable shelf, slanted adjustable shelf, stretcher, cleat, and back. So this is, you choose one of the parts you want to draw. I'm going to start off with the left side. Now, this third field is used for only one type of part, and let me just show that again. The slanted adjustable shelf. Because it's slanted and we need to choose an angle, and we define the angle by the number of pins that we're going to raise the back by. If I were to choose this part, I would also have to choose something from here, and you'll see that later. But for any part but the slanted adjustable shelves, you can ignore this. All right, so now all of the rest of the dimensions of the side are determined by defaults that I have set up. And as I said before, I chose defaults that are going to work for my particular design. A 24-inch deep cabinet, and a cabinet that has a back, and that back is a planted back, and the material is 3/4 an inch thick for sides. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you right now is I have the default set so that no shelf holes are drawn when I draw a side partition. So for sides and partitions, no shelf holes will be drawn. But I'm going to show you how to undo that and draw shelf holes. So let me just say OK. And there I go. I have a side. This elevation is 66 inches. This elevation was determined by where I drew the stick. I'll call it a closet stick. And the thickness was determined by a bunch of things, not the least of which was closet sides. Side thickness 3/4 an inch. Side hole depth is called partial. And partial means that if it's a shelf hole, it will be 1/2 inch. If I were to choose through hole, then whatever the thickness, this thickness here is, that's how deep that hole would be. So we define these a little differently than we did in CabWriter. You can choose the side holes to be either partial holes or through holes. If you choose them to be partial holes, then the shelf holes are determined over here. Partial hole depth is 1/2 inch. If it's through holes, then it's this depth here. Okay, now we said the closet has a back, and the closet depth is 24 inches. The wall gap is 1/2 inch, so just that's the same as in the cabinet design. So the actual depth of the cabinet will be 24 inches minus 1/2 inch minus the thickness of the back material, which, by the way, is determined here. So that's 1/2 inch. So the actual depth of the cabinet is going to be 23 inches. Okay, I'll go through some more of these later, but let's just leave it at that for now. Now, I want to back up and undo this, and I'm going to temporarily change some things here. I'm going to go to Closets tab, and notice that I have Shelf Hole Enable set to No. That's why I got no shelf holes. If I set it to Yes and update it and close it and redraw this side, I'll come out any distance, make it a left side, say OK. Now notice that I have shelf holes, both front and back set of shelf holes. Notice at the top there's a space, and at the bottom there's a space. Those are called buffers. Those are intentional because if I were to put a door on this, I'd need to put the hinge plate holes here and here. The other thing I did, and I mentioned this in that section that I told you to read, is if you look at the front hole setback, well, I'm just going to create a line here that's 47 millimeters back from the front edge. You'll notice that's where the shelf holes go through. Normally the shelf holes are 37 millimeters back from the front. But for reasons explained in that document, I moved them back to 47 millimeters to make sure that they don't collide with any draw slide holes, the front hole of a draw slide hole, or hinge holes. So that's another change I've made. You have to read that document to understand. But I got both sets of holes. Now I'm going to undo this again, and I'm going to redraw it again. And this time, after I make my first click, I'm going to come out along the line. While I'm on the line, I'm going to hit the Shift key. And notice now that the cursor has an S, which indicates that I hit the Shift key. If I hit it again, the S goes away. And if I hit it again, the S comes back. So normally, if I were to draw this side now, I would get the shelf holes. But because I hit the Shift key and then click and choose the left side, notice I don't get the shelf holes. So there's a number of ways that I can eliminate the shelf holes. One is to disable them on the Closet tab, and the other is to use the Shift key, which I can do on individual sides or partitions. So that's a way to control it individually. The other way is a way to control it globally. But now I want no shelf holes. And I'll explain this a little later, but it's also explained in that document I asked you to read. Now I happen to notice offline that I made a mistake. Not unusual. I do a lot of that. And the mistake I made was there's going to be a bottom to this closet, and that bottom's supposed to sit under this side and go all the way to the wall. And so I have to fix that up somehow. Now, I think the first reaction is going to be by most people is to simply use the Edit Component tool and the Push-Pull tool to take the bottom face of this side and push it up the thickness of the bottom, which is 3/4 of an inch. Don't do that. In ClosetWriter, what gets stored in its DNA is this starting point here, and the starting point plus the thickness of this material as an ending point here. And if you just do an edit and a push-pull on this, that'll work until you want to redraw that closet, at which time this will redraw the side starting here and here because the DNA didn't change with the edit component. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to delete this part. And now, because I've been drawing that left side a lot to show you things, I'm actually going to get rid of all those parts that were created, and they're in the library, the component library. And I do that with a tool that you can get online, a free tool called Purge tool. And I'm going to purge components. It says there's 136 of them. That's amazing. So I'm going to purge all the unused tools. And now I'm going to move this line up. I can either redraw it or move it. No, I think I'll redraw it. I'll go up along the vertical axis, 3/4 of an inch, the thickness of my bottom. And now I got a new line. And now I want to redraw that side. So again, I'll start with this tool, go to the intersection of that new line and the face of the wall. Whoops, that doesn't look right. Intersection. And I come out any distance and I choose the left side. And now notice I get my side again, no shelf holes, and it's off the toe kick by 3/4 of an inch. So now I can either draw the bottom at this point or just keep going and draw some of the other parts that I need. Well, it turns out I need 3 partitions that are the same height as this. And a short partition. But let me draw the 3 tall partitions first. The first one's going to be 40 inches from the inside face of this end, this side, left side, to the left side face of the next partition. So I'll use the distance tool and I'll come out along this line 40 inches, enter. And now I get ready to draw the partition. Now this is a good time to mention that in ClosetWriter, unlike CabWriter, you must always work the stick segments from left to right. You cannot go from right to left. That will draw components that don't work. You must go from left to right. So just get used to that and just do it. All right, so this time I'm going to create a partition. And I need 2 more. And they need to be 16 inches apart. So I'll use the distance tool again with the control key. Come down 16 inches. Come over this side, left to right. Create another partition. And 1 more. Distance tool, 16 inches. Left to right. Partition tool. I have 1 more partition I have to put in. And to do that, let me just show you what the finished product looks like. The partition I'm talking about is this one right here. And it's exactly in the middle of these 2. And its height, its elevation, the top of this, the elevation, from the floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom of the wall here, go up vertically, and just measure its elevation from the floor. It's 23 1/4. So let me use that information to draw my next partition, 23 1/4. Okay, so I'll start here. I'll use the distance tool. Come over 19 1/2. and then over this way again, and click. Now this time I want to put 23 1/4 into the height. And again, it's a partition. And there we go. Now if I got that right, let's see what the distance is from here to here. It's 23 1/4, just what I wanted. And now when I put a shelf on top of that, which is 3/4, that'll make the top of that shelf 24 inches, which is what I wanted. All right. So I now have all the vertical partitions. I'm going to start working on the horizontal partitions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two more construction lines. One that's exactly along the top front edge of the side, and another one that's 3/4 of an inch up from that along the blue axis. That's because the thickness of my tops are 3/4 of an inch. So now I'm going to draw a top. I'm going to start with this topmost construction line and where it intersects the wall. And I'm going to go over now. Notice what I did here. Notice it's on the line and you can faintly see a vertical line that says it's directly up from that point. And I'll click. And this time I'm going to want a top. And there we go. Now my closet has a top. All right, I'm going to do a similar thing, and I'm going to place a bottom down here. Now, by the way, when you draw a top, you draw it along a construction line, and the top extrudes downward toward the inside of the closet. When you draw a bottom along a construction line, it extrudes itself upward toward the inside of the closet. So I have to start down here. And this time, it's not going to be as long as the top. It's going to come to the center of this line, of this partition. And I'm going to come down vertically from that point. And I'm going to choose a bottom. All right, so now I have a top and a bottom, not quite over here yet, but that's okay. And the next thing I want to do is I want to create a fixed shelf here. To do that, I'm going to create a construction line there. I'm going to use our tool again. Go from here, where it intersects on the inside of the left side, to where it intersects on the inside of the partition. And I'll choose fixed shelf. Now notice that a fixed shelf extrudes itself upward above the line, the construction line. And you're going to learn in a moment that it's just the opposite for stretchers. And the reason for that is stretchers are typically used as tops. And so they typically extrude downward into the closet. But you're going to have to remember that fixed shelves extrude upward, stretchers extrude downward. All right, so now I've got my fixed shelf here. I got this divided off into two spaces with a partition. And I think what I want to do now is put a couple of more fixed shelves in. And let me get some dimensions offline, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to use the tape measure tool. I'm going to start from the top edge of the bottom up along the blue axis, 26 1/4, I believe. I hope I didn't forget that. Yes, 26 1/4. So now I'm going to put a fixed shelf here and a fixed shelf here. And I think the other thing I have to do, referring to my offline document, is 2 more stretchers. And to do that, I'm going to use the tape measure tool. Come up here, 9 5/8. And I'm going to put stretchers in here. Now remember, stretchers extrude downward. Now if I did that correctly, that opening is 8 7/8. That opening is 8 7/8. So I have one more to put in over here. All right. I'm going to put some adjustable shelves in here. So I want it 1 inch up from the base. Now these adjustable shelves are going to be slanted adjustable shelves. So I'll choose slanted adjustable. And I have to remember this time, because I'm using slanted adjustable shelves, I have to select the number of pins to create the angle I want. The angle I want is somewhere around 15 or 14 degrees. So I can either pick 3 pins or 4 pins. And with this particular design, I'll get 15 degrees with 4 pins. It seems like a lot to me. But again, these are adjustable shelves. They're not fixed. So if I choose this slant, it probably will still work with 3 pins. So I'm going to choose the 14.4 degrees or 4 pins. That seems steep to me, but I'm going to go with it for now. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose all three pieces. I'm going to use the Move Copy tool. So I choose the Move tool. I hit the Control key until I get the plus sign. I pick any point on this, and I go up along the blue axis 8 inches. And I do that 2 times, 2x. And so now I have 3 shelves. I'll look to make sure it didn't hit the fixed shelf up here, and it hasn't. So I got 3 adjustable shelves for shoes. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I got to remember. Now, if I wanted to this time, I could pick a shallower number. And just for the heck of it, let me do that. This will be different than the original design, but let me just do that. You see it's quite a bit shallower. But again, I'll pick 1, 2, 3 parts. Take the Move tool with the plus sign. Pick a point. Move it up along the blue axis. And I can do that by hitting the up arrow. 8 inches. 2x. And so if you have high heels, you might want to put them over here. If you have men's shoes, you might want to put them over here. And I'm almost done with this closet, I think. Oh, I need adjustable shelves for here. So let me find out what the distance is, and we'll do that. Okay. I'm going to use the tape measure tool. Go up along the blue axis 8 15/16. And I'm going to do that well, let me get the shelf in there. And again, let me just measure this. Eight 15/16 along the blue axis. So I'll take this. Okay, up along the blue axis, 8 15/16. And I'll do that 2x. Okay, so now I have my fixed shelves in there. And I can put them here if I want. Or I can just copy them over. But I think I'll, I might as well draw them in. 8 and 15/16. And 2x. Okay. Now I believe I've got everything that I need for the cabinet, the first cabinet. And yes, I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear everything out. And I'm going to go over to the tags over here. And I'm just going to choose to see the horizontal closet box parts and the vertical closet box parts. And I'm going to get rid of the guides for the moment and the axes. Now, what I want to mention here is this is the point where you want to make this a closet. So far, all of these parts, if I choose one and I look up here, this says it's a closet because it starts with a K. The K indicates a closet. It's a closet part. And the SE indicates a side. SE is the side. TP is a top. BM is a bottom. Partition is a PN, so on and so forth. But notice between the K and the PN there's no number. So what I want to do is I want to collect all of these parts. And make them into a closet. In other words, assign them the same number, all parts the same number. And I do that with this tool right here, the Assign Closet Numbers. So if I click that, it tells me a closet number has been assigned. And now, I don't know why my guides came back. But now if I click one of these sides, notice it's K4SE. And all of them should have the same number. K4FS. K4ST. So this is closet 4. Now, by the way, I wouldn't worry about what number it assigns to it at the moment, because we're going to use tools like renumber all cabinets, and which will renumber the closets too. So I'm not worried about the number right at the moment. But if I wanted to, I could renumber them right now. So it says all cabinets and closets have been renumbered. So let's see what I have now. Notice now it's K1SE. All the parts are K1 parts. Okay, now it was important that I do this before I added doors and drawers. And the reason is, when you add a door and drawer using the Insert a Door and Insert a Drawer tool, it will look to see what the cabinet number is, and it'll assign the drawer boxes, the drawer fronts, and the closet doors the same number. If, however, you haven't done this and you don't have a cabinet or closet with a number, you'll get a message that says it didn't know what number to assign them. You'll have to assign it later. But I think the best thing to do is, at this point, is to add them. Now, one of the things I didn't do, and I should have done before this, is I didn't add the backs. And so I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to and I'll have to manually change their number to 1, because that's the closet we're working on right now. So I'll bring back my guides. I'm going to add a back. This closet's going to need 2 backs if I want to be able to cut them out of 4x8 sheets of plywood or material of any kind. So I'll use the same tool. I'll start here. These are going to be planted backs. So I'll start from that edge. Now I'm going to bring the back to the middle of this. The first back is going to go to the middle of this, which is right here. Now I have to change the 66 number because that was the top elevation of a side. But I want the back to go up a little further than that to cover the top. So I'm going to make it 66.75. I'm going to make it a back. And let's just see if it did its job. Sure enough, I have a back. It goes to the top edge of the top. It ends in the middle of this partition. And it comes down all the way to the bottom edge of the bottom. So we have a back. I'm going to do the same thing here. $66.75. And again, we have a back. Okay, now I've got to name these backs. Now, because I have 2 of them, one of them will be simply K, and I'm going to make that a 1. BK for back, back. And now I'm going to select the next one. Notice this is already back number 1, but I'm going to make it K1, BK, back number 1. Now that I've done that, I can pick any part, including the parts I just added. Right-click, ClosetWriter, select Closet. And notice all of the parts that belong to that closet are selected. Okay. Now what needs to be done is I need to put doors and drawers on here and shelf holes. So let's start with the shelf holes. Where do I need shelf holes? Well, let me put the doors and drawers and things on first, because that will put draw slide holes in, and it'll also put hinge plate holes in, and then I know what I need to avoid. So I'll start off with the Add Doors tool, and the way you do that is the same way you do it for CabWriter. You have to select a rectangle. Go from that corner there. Notice I'm using the inside corners. Select the rectangle. Select the door. And this one I want to have 2 doors. Oh, and the reason I'm not seeing it is because I don't have the door tag selected. There we go. I've got the... All right, so I've got 2 doors there. I think what I want here just bring there's the draw box, and there's the draw front. Let's just finish these. And I think I want doors on these two as well. Oh, I made a mistake here. Notice I can see things through here. What I added here was not adjustable shelves, but fixed shelves. That's a mistake, but I can fix it. I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. Let me choose that one first. I'll fix those in a moment. So I think the only thing I have left is the shelf holes. Because if I take the doors, the draw boxes, and the draw fronts off, notice I've got the hinge plate holes, I've got the slider holes, and so now when I put the shelf holes in, I know what I have to avoid. And what I need to do is get rid of these fixed shelves. And put the adjustable shelves in. That's better. Notice they're set back 1/4 of an inch. And eight and 5, 15/16. I'm going to copy it, move it up. Along the blue. (2x). Okay, so I fixed that problem, but don't forget, we have to now number these. And the only one I have to number is this one, because these are copies. So this one, I can make a K1AS adjustable shelf. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add shelf holes here. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a construction line up about, I think the number is 6 inches. I can look at the defaults to find out exactly, but that looks right. See, that's the buffer to avoid hinge plate holes. And I'll do the same thing on the top. Come down 6 inches. And I know that the front holes are set back 47 millimeters. So I'll go back along the red 47 millimeters. Now I'm going to use a new tool. I want to add shelf holes. So I'm going to, first of all, I have to select the side I'm going to add them to. And then I have to select this tool, add or delete holes. I can do either. But I'm going to add holes in this case. And let me just start there. And go all the way down to there. And that brings up this dialog box. So I can either add or delete holes. In this case, I want to add. I want to include these endpoints that I created. Sometimes you want to exclude them. And what I want are shelf holes. I could also have construction holes. I do not want them going through. I just want them partial. And I want to use the parameters. In other words, in this case, it's a shelf hole. So the parameters would be, you know, how far from the front and how far from the back do you put the holes. And so I hit OK. And notice now I got shelf holes there and in the right place in the back. And since they don't go through, they don't disturb this side here. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. And what I might do to help myself is create a construction line. That goes to that point. And another construction line down here. That goes through this point. Now, by the way, don't get concerned that the holes didn't go directly on this intersection, because what ClosetWriter does is it places holes on a grid, a grid that is 32 millimeters, and it starts at the floor, which we call the datum, and it takes your starting and end point, and it says, if that's on a distance that is a multiple of 32 millimeters from the floor, I'll place a hole there. If it's not, I won't place a hole there. So even though you say include, the first hole might be down here like this one is. So don't worry about that. And now what I can do, I can choose this one, use the add delete holes. This time, just look for this intersection. Go all the way down till I find the intersection, the other intersection, this one, where it says online. And I want to add holes. I want to include shelf holes. But this time I want to go all the way through, because this partition is shared by both compartments of this closet. So I want the holes to go all the way through. And sure enough, they do. And lastly, I want to put them here. So again, I'll select that side, or that partition. I'll use the add holes. Start there. Go down to here. Oh, there it is. Add them, include, shelf holes through. No, not through. I don't want through. Partial. All right, and they didn't go through. Now I've got to put shelf holes in for down here. And I'll do one, but since you've seen me do these, I'm not going to do all of them because this video is getting really long. So I'll do one. Again, I'll come 37 millimeters. I'm sorry, 47 millimeters. Oh, suppose I made a mistake and I said 37 millimeters. In fact, suppose I made a mistake and I said 1 inch. Okay. And suppose I wanted the first one to start oh, 1 inch from the bottom. And I want this one to go down 2 inches from the top. Okay, so I'm going to add holes. Oh, I didn't select the side, which you have to do to begin with. I'm going to include holes, shelf holes. I don't want them to go through. And use partial parameters, or parameter defaults. Okay. So now I'm not going to do these or these. You've seen how to do them. I'm going to let the student do it offline. You have the finished product. You can copy from that. And I'll let you do those. But this videotape is now quite long. And I think it's time to call it an end. And with that, I hope you have a good understanding of ClosetWriter. And have a good day.